Contempt. That's the word coming out of Washington today. Bill Barr, the Attorney General, has been found in contempt of Congress because he won't turn over documents. And he's asked to do that because President Trump asserted executive privilege to keep Congress from seeing the 100% redacted Mueller report, 95% of which, by the way, is available online for anybody whose life is boring enough to make them want to look at it. I mean, seriously. If someone came in here right now and gave me the 447-page Mueller report, I'd run out of the room screaming. Don't make me read that, please. Seriously, how sick are you of hearing about the Mueller report? And contempt is a good word here because everybody should have contempt for just about everybody in Washington, including the media, I think you could throw in there. Especially in this case, the Democrats, because they refused to give it up. They lost. Trump won. Move on. Remember MoveOn.org? That was the website that actually turned into an organization that I guess still exists. It was created when the Democrats were telling everybody to move on from Bill Clinton's Monica Lewinsky scandal. How about moving on now? Now, I mean, I know I'm doing a talk show here, and I know the Mueller report and the Russians and impeachment are all big stories, but really, think about it. What's new today? Other than the legal maneuvering, does anybody know any more about this today, about the Russians, about any of it, than they knew yesterday? Has anybody's opinion been changed? I would guess there isn't a 1% change in anybody's opinion about any of this. If you like Trump, you want it to go away. If you hate Trump, you want to see him frog marched out of the White House in handcuffs. And it's not going to happen, by the way. So nobody's opinion is being changed. So guess what we're not going to talk about today? The Mueller report. Not today, not here, but I do have two good topics to cover. The stupidity of Bernie Sanders, who claimed that our prison system is actually a plot to suppress the black vote. We'll have numbers to show and a guy who wrote a piece about it to show what an idiot Bernie Sanders is. That's a lot more fun than looking at the Mueller report. And coming up after the break, just in a couple of minutes here, more stupidity from Seattle. What in the Me Too era could possibly trump sympathy for a female sexual assault victim? Well, if the assaulter is homeless, that's what. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stick around. Getting close to retirement? Experienced a nice Trumponomics bump in your portfolio? Well, we know the that is bulletproof against the market's ups and downs. The team at Marley Financial uses a multitude of different techniques to make sure that you have a retirement plan that is tax-friendly, stable, and worry-free. Oh, and speaking of taxes, did you know that Marley Financial can handle that too? With all the changes in the tax laws, be sure you're taking advantage of the best possible deduction in your overall financial picture going forward. Call today for a no-obligation consultation to see just how for 25 years the clients at Marley Financial have never had a retirement plan fail. Call 724-884-1496 today. 724-884-1496 or visit them at marleyfg.com. Have you heard the crack of the bat, the cheers of the crowd? Have you seen the smiles on the faces of the players as they take the field? I'm not talking about the Pirates. I'm talking about what's happening in Moon Township that can only be described as a miracle. This is John Steigerwald. With the help of Pirates Charities and people like yourself, the Miracle League of Moon Township has broken ground on a brand new ball field and adaptive playground where athletes with special needs can play regardless of their ability. At miraclesinmoon.org, you can see the stunning plans for the 9,500 square foot playground and state-of-the-art ADA-compliant restroom facility with showers, wave technology, multi-level fountains and sinks, mechanical changing tables, and more. It's incredible. Our goal? To raise the remaining funds they need to bring it home by first pitch this September. Check it out at miraclesinmoon.org/donate and make your tax-deductible gift today. That's miraclesinmoon.org/donate. This message paid for by Robinson Town Center, a Zamias Properties entity.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt for PatriotMobile.com, the country's only conservative cell phone carrier. Do you believe in abortion? Do you want sanctuary cities? And if not, why are you supporting these efforts with your cell phone? Big Mobile has given millions of dollars of your money to these causes when you pay your cell phone bill. That's why conservatives created Patriot Mobile, to give you a choice to stop supporting things you don't believe in. It's easy to switch to Patriot Mobile. You get the same reliable nationwide service, unlimited talk and text, plans starting as low as $25, and each bill you pay supports your values. Need more motivation? Mention Hugh Hewitt when you call 1-800-A-PATRIOT or visit them online at patriotmobile.com/Hugh to get your activation fee waived. In fact, for 2 lines, you can make a difference, but only if you make the switch to Patriot Mobile. Call 1-800-A-PATRIOT or visit patriotmobile.com/Hugh.
If you take a look around your hometown, you might notice that there seems to be a mattress store on every corner, each with a different sale every weekend. Where do you start? And how do you know if you're actually getting a good value? Here at the Original Mattress Factory, what you see is what you get. You'll find our hand-built, high-quality mattresses at the same great price every day. Stop by one of our local factories or stores to experience the Original Mattress Factory difference. Great beds, no bull.
The gimmicks, the flashy sales, and the big markups. Mattress stores have made the mattress shopping experience confusing on purpose. Ron Trzcinski started the Original Mattress Factory to create a better way. He raised the bar on quality, offered hand-built mattresses for a fraction of the cost, and ditched the high-pressure sales tactics, all to create a better mattress buying experience for you. You could say he was the original disruptor. Stop by an Original Mattress Factory store or visit us at originalmattress.com to see the OMF difference for yourself.
The John Steigerwald Show, AM 1250, The Answer.
Well, you don't hear too much about the homeless in Pittsburgh. Maybe that's a good thing because it's not a huge problem, but it's a problem in other cities like San Francisco and Seattle. We've talked about the poop problems in both cities on this show. And a few months ago, we talked to Chris Rufo of the City Journal about what a disaster the homeless situation is in Seattle. It still is. He joins us now with another story. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
So it starts with a woman named Lindsey being raped by a homeless person. What happened after that?
Well, that is the start of the story, and the important detail and the relevance to the policy debate is that this is a guy who came as a transient drifter from Texas. He had racked up an open warrant in Seattle, and despite all this, he was still able to gain residence in a city-funded and city-managed homeless encampment, and that really enabled him to kind of do his thing, and then eventually, unfortunately, commit this horrific crime that caused an outcry when it happened about a year ago, but it was only in the last few weeks that the survivor of the crime finally started to reveal her identity and speak out against the city.
And she asked you to do the documentary. How did she contact you?
She had heard from some friends in the kind of law enforcement community about me, about some of my work on homelessness, and she really wanted to reach out to someone because she had contacted city officials, she had contacted the sitting city councilman, and she had received nothing but dismissiveness and contempt because her story didn't fit in with the preferred ideological narrative about the homeless. And she was so fed up that she said, I need to go to someone that can help me tell my story directly in my own words. So we collaborated to create this short film, very emotional, very powerful, of her explaining what happened and explaining why she feels the city is failing to protect residents of the city of Seattle.
Okay, so let's listen now. This is an excerpt from your interview with her. This is the victim, Lindsey.
He said very little to me. During the sexual assault, he said, "You want this?" And he said, "God wants this." And I thought to myself that I didn't want to die. And I didn't want to die on a linoleum trailer bathroom floor. And I didn't want my story to end there. I found out that he had a warrant out for his arrest going back to 2016, which was very troubling to me because he was using public services to survive. So I think we need to all acknowledge what we're doing isn't working. What we're doing right now is actually harming the city. And we need stronger leaders.
Okay, so that's Lindsey, and as the headline of your piece in the City Journal says, Chris, it created the wrong narrative. So the reaction was what to your documentary?
Well, I'll say that the reaction from the vast majority of people was compassion for Lindsey, of course, and then outrage that the city really created the policy conditions for this to happen. And then over the past year since it's happened, hasn't made any changes. They don't require warrant checks at city-funded homeless encampments, and the problem continues to get out of control. But what happened among a very vocal minority of people in the city of Seattle is they actually, and this is incredible, they lashed out at Lindsey. And they said that because she was, and this is a quote, she was an attractive blonde woman, was the only reason her story was gaining any traction. And they condemned the documentary, and they condemned her speech because they said that it perpetuated a false narrative about the homeless, connecting homelessness with violence. So it's a bizarre thing where they're actually attacking the victim of a crime and rationalizing the perpetrator of the crime.
Yeah, and this is the quote. This is from a tweet by Erica C. Barnett. She's a journalist. Maybe you can, in a minute, you can tell me exactly what kind of a journalist she actually is. But this is the tweet. The agenda, Rufo's and KIRO's, that's the TV station, is to create a false link between a policy, quote unquote, allowing homeless people to live outside of government, camps, or jails, and rape of a, this is what you were talking about, a rape of a, in parentheses, not coincidentally, attractive blonde woman who could be your daughter, sister, cousin. So I guess she's saying this, if this would have been a really ugly woman, that it would be different somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that nobody thinks that except for this fringe group of activists that unfortunately have a lot of political sway in Seattle. But, I mean, it's absolutely outrageous and unconscionable to mention the survivor of the crime's hair color, skin color. It's totally irrelevant. A sexual assault is a sexual assault, and it's an awful thing no matter who is the victim.
Well, imagine if she had been raped, and here in the Me Too movement, you would expect a little bit more sympathy. But anyway, imagine if she had been raped, and and someone would have said that it had something to do with the way that she was dressed, that she was provocatively dressed. Appearance isn't supposed to even be discussed. It's not supposed to be a factor. All of a sudden, being a good-looking blonde changes something somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it does, but and even the bigger point that journalists like Erica C. Barnett are trying to make is that there's no connection between homelessness and crime. But I actually looked into it, and in King County Jail for the sum of 2018, the homeless individuals represent 0.5% of the population, but 19% of all jail bookings. So they're 38 times more likely to be booked into jail for committing crimes than the average citizen. And this is something that is plain to see. If you have people who are on the streets, who in the majority of cases are addicted to opioids, according to data from the city of Seattle, they're going to be committing crimes. They're going to be causing chaos in the streets. And rather than cling to this ideology of kind of progressive preferences, we should start actually taking a look at this. And these horrific crimes, like what happened here with Lindsey, should be a wake-up call to everyone.
Oh, here's what a council member, Lorena Gonzalez, said in a tweet. When reporting on sexual assault and violence, the responsibility of the media is to ask, what does this illustrate and what solutions does this point to? That's what she's quoting Erica Barnett, who I just had on the just mentioned on the previous tweet, and to not sensationalize or create fear in communities that may already be triggered. Boy, do I hate that word, triggered, but that's what she said.
Yeah, I'm not even quite sure what that means.
I don't either.
I think what she's trying to get at is that it's a fancy way of saying this doesn't fit into our narrative. It makes us look bad. So we should just silence any kind of dissenting view and anything that we determine is the wrong narrative. And I think it's really unfortunate that a sitting councilwoman, someone who has the power to enact mandatory warrant checks at city-funded homeless encampments, rather than take those common-sense approaches that Lindsey and many other people in the community are starting to demand, she's playing identity politics, and she's turning perpetrators to victims, victims into perpetrators in this kind of morally incoherent way that I really feel has done deep damage to cities like Seattle.
And the alleged rapist, the last thing I saw on him was that he was held on $1 million bond. Has he been convicted?
So he's awaiting trial. He was apprehended at the scene of the crime. There were many witnesses there, and then when he was taken into custody, he initially confessed to the crime. Since then, he's pleaded not guilty, and they're really awaiting trial. But I feel confident that justice will be served, and this individual, Christopher Teal, will hopefully be serving a very long sentence.
He's obviously insane. He's nuts. I mean, he's nuts. He committed a rape in a bathroom. It's a trailer on a car dealership, right? And
yeah, in broad daylight.
Yeah, and the sounds were all multiple people heard what was going on. They just opened the door and caught him basically in the act. He's nuts. And so, how many people and the media and the politicians in Seattle, are they constantly trying to portray these homeless people as virtuous, wonderful people?
That's exactly right. The official narrative is that the homeless are average middle-class people who are temporarily down on their luck and can't afford rising rents in cities where rents are going up, like here in Seattle. But they say that, the politicians say that on the one hand, but on the other hand, when the city of Seattle filed a lawsuit against Purdue Pharma, they admitted that at least 50% of all the people experiencing homelessness are addicted to opioids. And the social science data going back 20 years is very clear that about 30% of the people on the streets suffer from severe mental illness like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia.
And I think this brings up an old argument, Chris, that the homeless people were either considered bums or vagrants, and they were told either to get out of town or go to jail, or they were found to be mentally disturbed, and they were taken care of. And has that changed? I mean, it's changed how they're treated, but the fact of who they are has not changed.
Yeah, I think how we interpret this problem has changed drastically, and I think we have to do two things. We have to get really honest with ourselves that the opioid crisis and the homelessness crisis are deeply intertwined, and then we also have to get honest that this policy of total deinstitutionalization is actually cruel to the people who are suffering from mental illness that are now find themselves on the streets, and they have nowhere to go. No one's taking care of them. And we really need to look at both of those issues that, unfortunately, as we ignore them, just continue to increase the problems that we see every day. And
I've been around a while, and I get you when you say that it's the opioid issue right now, but in the past it was alcohol. It was, I don't see the difference other than it's just a different way of making yourself incapable of functioning in society. It used to be that the people that you found who were homeless, you could bet that they had an alcohol problem, and they tried to take care of that or get them off the streets.
Yeah, and actually, even 100 years ago in West Coast cities, we did a pretty good job of doing that. There were charities and nonprofits and kind of day labor programs, work programs that people could sign up for. They could find a cheap single-room occupancy hotel. But we've medicalized and professionalized it in a way that no matter how much we're spending, and in Seattle we're spending now about $80,000 a year per homeless man and woman to solve this problem, but our programs are just aren't working, and unfortunately, there's no end in sight.
So if I decide to move to Seattle with no money and no job tomorrow, would there be a nice spot waiting for me that was paid for by the city?
There might be. The city sanctioned amendments have received a lot of pushback, as you might imagine, from neighbors. So I think the tide is turning. I think we're going to really be moving away from that model. But the thing is a lot of folks that are coming here from outside of the city of Seattle, that's about 51% of the total homeless population. It's pretty free reign. We've basically totally decriminalized public camping. So you can pitch a tent in almost anywhere, and nobody's going to stop you.
Unbelievable. How do the people who allow this to happen keep getting elected?
Well, that's a great question. Coming up in August and then in November, there are 7 out of 9 council seats up for election. So it's really going to be a test of the public. Does the public want to return to moderate, pragmatic government, or does the public want to double down on the activist ideology and keep doing what we're doing? And I'm optimistic that there are going to be some changes. I hope that the public wakes up and realizes that if we continue what we're doing, it's not going to work. But we have a huge opportunity for change with 7 out of 9 seats up for election.
And is it has it come down to who's in favor of poop and who's not? Poop on the streets? Because I know that's still a problem there.
Yeah, it is. I think I think these are complex policy questions, but I think you're right. I think in the sense people want to know: do we continue with the street level order, or do we try to restore order? Do we try to have smart, tough policies to get people off the streets, into treatment, into housing, and back on their feet? And luckily there are candidates that are out there. They're not backed by the kind of activist class that's currently in charge. They're really mobilizing the grassroots, just everyday middle-class neighbors. They might be left-leaning or progressive, but as the problems start to affect their quality of life, they're really taking a second look and saying, wow, maybe we need to move back towards the middle. Yeah,
but I still, how much time I got, Aaron? I got about a minute and a half here, Chris. I'm up against a hard break, but I still don't get how we don't have. I don't think we have that issue here to that. No, nothing close to it to that degree that you have out there. But how does it even last 5 minutes when there's people discussing about? I'm finding poop on the street. Clean it up. How does anybody even debate?
Modern rhetoric, and really what the effect of that is try to signal some kind of moral superiority, say very little, and then carry on. But I think people are starting to see through that empty rhetoric, and the activist everyday municipal government just doesn't work.
Chris, I'm out of time. I really appreciate you being here. Just one last thing. I have a feeling that those people don't live near the poop, but I got to go. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right, we'll be right back.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
Mr. Chairman, there are 24 ayes and 16 noes.
The ayes have it, and the committee report as amended is ordered reported favorably to the House. I now recognize the ranking member, the gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to Clause 2L of Rule 11, I hereby give notice of intent to file dissenting views for the inclusion into the report.
And so the House Judiciary Committee has voted to hold Attorney General Bill Barr in contempt of Congress for refusing to release the full unredacted Mueller report. Ahead of the vote, President Trump exerted a executive privilege over those materials and reserved the right to block them. A mixed day on Wall Street as the Dow was up by 2 points to 25,967. The Nasdaq dropped 21. The S&P lower by 5. Crude oil up 72 cents. It closed at $62.12 a barrel on the New York Mercantile Exchange. This is SRN News.
Jay Sekulow finds the new economic numbers impressive.
Some really good news coming right out of the gate today, and that is the unemployment number, 3.5%. It's the lowest unemployment in 50 years since 1969. Unemployment in the Black and Hispanic community, lowest in history. 2 million jobs created last year, including 250,000 manufacturing and mining jobs. These numbers are staggering.
Jay Sekulow live, weeknights at 6, right before Larry Elder at 7, on AM 1250. The Answer.
You're an insurance agent. You're also an entrepreneur looking to grow. And what better way to grow than by being your own boss? Owning your own Farmers Insurance Agency has been called one of the best small business opportunities in America. With a nationally respected brand, award-winning training, and your personal experienced business coach, your opportunity to grow is unlimited. No franchise fees required. Visit beafarmersagent.com and start growing.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Hunt & Associates is your resource for examining the important financial aspects for your retirement plan. Listen to our podcast radio show, Hunt for Retirement, by visiting gwhunt.com. On this week's edition of Hunt for Retirement, we discuss securing lifetime income. Text HUNT to 555-888 or visit gwhunt.com to listen to the podcast now or call 844-366-HUNT for a free copy of the book, Income Allocation, and a free retirement income report.
Pella has done it again with a brand new series called Lifestyle. Wood windows and patio doors delivering solutions for real life. Performance redefined. Unbeatable energy efficiency, sound control, and value. Innovations like integrated blinds, shades, and security sensors. Unique solutions for every room with the best limited lifetime warranty for wood windows and patio doors. For a limited time, get 50% off installation, 12 months, no payments, no interest. Call 888-77-PELLA, PellaPittsburgh.com.
Email phishing attacks cost businesses billions annually in real cash, data loss, and brand damage. Phishing emails are hard to detect because the messages appear to be legitimate to unsuspecting employees. Introducing Barracuda Fishline, a groundbreaking cloud-based solution designed to help employees recognize sophisticated email phishing attacks through interactive training reinforced by continuous simulation. Transform your employees from a liability into a line of defense. Go to barracuda.com/PL to learn more.
Pain or no pain, your wisdom teeth should be checked every year. If wisdom teeth come in properly and meet the right conditions, they are generally safe to keep. But left unchecked, they can put you at risk for gum disease, tooth decay, and damage to adjacent teeth. Some wisdom teeth grow in at such an angle that they never break through the gum, which can lead to tooth decay, gum disease, cysts, and tumors. These impacted teeth can only be seen on x-rays, so the damage they may cause can go undetected if they are not checked by a dental professional. Some people just don't have enough room for another tooth in their mouth, so their wisdom teeth can affect adjacent teeth when they come in. This can make it difficult to chew, difficult to keep them all clean, and misalign your teeth. Not all wisdom teeth need to be removed, but they all do need to be monitored by an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. Find a surgeon near you for a complete examination. If your wisdom teeth do need to be removed, the procedure can be done in an office setting with minimal post-operative pain and swelling. Remember, pain or no pain, your wisdom teeth should be checked every year. Find your local oral and maxillofacial surgeon at myoms.org.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
A busy drive home delays and accidents coming into the traffic center. Among them in Pittsburgh, an accident, Baldwick Road at Steen Street, one in Aspinwall, Freeport Road at St. Margaret Drive, one in Castle Shannon, Grove Road at McRoberts, and Pleasant Hills it's bumper to bumper on Lebanon Church Road at Clover Drive due to a crash. And in Fox Chapel, there's an accident on Squaw Run Road at Fox Chapel Road, and there are delays. I'm Ann Evans. That's a look at your traffic.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
A mild night expected tonight with a low of 59 and partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, variable clouds out there with a high of 79. Later in the afternoon, a couple of strong thunderstorms will move in. They could bring hail and damaging winds with them. The storms and rain will continue into tomorrow night. It'll be a mild night otherwise with a low of 62. And for Friday, staying cloudy with a couple of showers left over and a high of 71. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Derek Witt.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Hey, in our last segment, you heard about politicians in Seattle coddling the homeless even after they use the sidewalk as a toilet. The stupidity is mind-boggling. Well, Bernie Sanders should wear a T-shirt that says, "You're with stupid." And there are still people taking him seriously as a presidential candidate after the stupid things he said about prisons and felons voting. Rafael Mangual is with the Manhattan Institute. He's here to shine a light on the stupidity. Rafael, thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, John. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Bernie says let felons vote. Do you have a problem with that?
Look, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with the ultimate prescription. I mean, that to me is a political question that we ought to argue about in the political sphere. What I have a problem with, though, is why Bernie argues that felons should be allowed to vote. And to me, this is an example of some pretty irresponsible use of rhetoric. I mean, Bernie Sanders basically claimed on Twitter that the prison population is overcrowded with Black Americans as an effort to disenfranchise them as a group. That's basically a conspiracy theory. The reality is that when you look at who's in prison in the United States of America, there are people who have been convicted of very serious, often violent crimes. And while there are certainly arguments to be had about whether our prison population is too large or too small, the reality is that it remains a policy response to serious crime and nothing else. The idea that the prison population reflects a broader effort or conspiracy to disenfranchise Black Americans, to me, is just without any basis.
It works, though, for the Democrats, apparently. It's, pandering. But here's what Bernie said. There's a quote, and you had this in your piece. South Carolina has a higher incarceration rate than any country on earth. African Americans are 27% of the state population, but 60% of the prison population. Our racist criminal justice system disenfranchises millions. This is quite simply voter suppression. I guess it means voter suppression by, first of all, you incarcerate them, and then it's a good way to just take them out of the voting block.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's just silly. First off, there just simply aren't enough people in prison in South Carolina or any state to really swing a race one way or the other in a particular jurisdiction. But also, I mean, there are a couple of fallacies at play here. I mean, for one, using the Black share of the population as the baseline to determine whether Blacks are overrepresented in prisons is really a nonsensical approach, in my view. I think the thing that you ought to be looking at is what percentage of serious crime is committed by the various racial groups. And when you dig into the data, the unfortunate reality is that crime is both geographically and demographically concentrated in the United States, and Black Americans, specifically Black men, commit an outsized portion of serious violent crime, which explains a good chunk of the prison population in South Carolina. I mean, in South Carolina, 55% of the prison population is explained by just 4 offenses, which are, all serious crimes. I mean, this is homicide, robbery, sexual assault, and burglary. So, the idea that these crimes are just being pinned on people in order to disenfranchise them is just nonsense.
Yeah, to believe that, go along with that, you'd have to believe that, that there's not a trial somewhere involved, and a jury and a judge that creates this, causes this person to be in a prison somewhere. Usually, first you get arrested, and then you get tried, and then you're found guilty, and then you're sentenced. They don't seem to mention. So it's almost like they think that they just show up in prison. That you're guilty of murder. Let's go to prison. And first of all, I know in Chicago they're only solving like 17% or less than that of the murders in Chicago.
That's right. Yeah, look, I mean, this is the other part of the prison debate that people kind of gloss over, but it's an important part of the debate, and that is that the vast majority of serious crimes in this country go unanswered for, right? I mean, if you look at, the FBI's UCR data, the Uniform Crime Reports, it turns out that only 45% or so of the violent index offenses committed over the course of a year in the United States are cleared. That means more than half are not cleared. And by cleared, I mean that, a suspect was identified and arrested or, killed during the process of being arrested, etc.
Yeah.
When it comes to serious property crime, that number drops to like 17.5%, right? So there's a whole slew of crimes for which people generally agree should result in at least some term of imprisonment that go without punishment simply because the perpetrator isn't caught. So that's another serious part. In addition to the jury and the judge, though, and the police officers, one of the things that you left out that I think Sanders also problematically ignores is the victim. Right? I mean,
one of those too. Yeah.
There is a person who has been, murdered or robbed or raped or, and they have come forward and the idea that prison sentences are a response to anything other than that is really just an unfortunate devolution in the rhetoric.
We're talking to Rafael Mangual. He's from the Manhattan Institute, and he is here talking about just some of what the Bernie Sanders and other Democrats have been pushing. Rafael is a fellow and deputy director for legal policy at the Manhattan Institute. So I think most people, Rafael, including Bernie, would probably be surprised to learn that South Carolina's murder rate per 100,000, according to your story, is almost 3 times as high as New York's. That was shocking to me.
That's right, yeah. I mean, one of the things that I don't think people have quite realized who are outside of the greater New York City area is just what a success story New York City's turnaround really was on the crime front. I mean, in 1990, New York had more than 2,200 murders in a given year.
Wow.
We were at fewer than 300 last year. I mean, that is just an unprecedented drop. I mean, we've got about 100,000 fewer robberies. I mean, it really is just absolutely incredible.
Didn't that happen under Rudy Giuliani? Is that where it began?
That is indeed where it began, under Rudy Giuliani and the leadership of William Bratton, who started off as the commissioner of the MTA police and went on to become the commissioner of the NYPD for 2 terms. I mean, the implementation of broken windows policing and the prioritization of public quality of life offenses and policing those vigorously really helped to kind of lay the groundwork to turn the city around. And, so this is just another example of why, comparing, one jurisdiction to a different country, as Bernie Sanders did in his tweet, really just kind of ignores the more important underlying questions, right? I mean, you often hear when in the incarceration debate in the United States that the U.S. has something like 5% of the world's population, but around 25% of the world's prison population. And that's shocking to a lot of people when they, first hear it. But one of the things that, people have to understand is that, well, the United States also has a significant and outsized share of violent crime, right? I mean, this is a favorite talking point of the left when it comes to the issue of gun control, right? And whenever there's a mass shooting, they never hesitate to compare how many more shootings the U.S. has than, a Western European democracy, for example. Well, that elevated level of violent crime also informs our prison population. And, that Bernie's analysis, to the extent that you can call it that, also ignores the fact that the U.S. has a significant amount of money at its disposal to spend on its criminal justice endeavors that other countries may not, necessarily have. And so, the idea that because we have 5% of the world's population, we ought to only have 5% of the world's prison population. It's like, well, if you take a look at who's in prison, the only way you can get down to that number would be to basically let out some of the, most serious criminals you probably never want to meet.
Yeah, well, you think that the implication from them seems to be that so many people are in prison and they are there for nonviolent crimes like marijuana sales or possession or even any other kind of drug sales. And there are people out there who just want to open the gates and let them all out. And they think that would make a serious dent in the numbers that everybody complains about. And you're saying it wouldn't, right?
Not even close. And in fact, even some, even the more serious scholars who are on the political left have had to admit this, right? I mean, John Pfaff, certainly no conservative on these questions, wrote a fantastic book basically making exactly that point. Like that there is a very limited impact that you can have if you go after these so-called nonviolent and drug offenses to decarcerate. The reality is that, something like 55% of our prison population is in for a violent felony. Another 18% is in for property-related felonies. You got another about 4% in for weapons charges, whereas only 15.2% are in state prisons for drug offenses. I mean, this is a small number. And the other thing too to keep in mind is that the fact that someone is in prison today primarily for a drug offense does not mean that they are a quote non-violent offender. Right. I mean, the reality is that there's a significant amount of overlap between both violent and nonviolent offenders, and there are very many drug dealers across the country who are not so nice people.
I mean, how many times do you hear the crime was a case of a drug deal gone bad? It's like every other one.
Right. And also, I mean, consider this statistic, which I find really, really sobering. More than 3/4 of drug offenders who get released from state prison go on to commit a non-drug offense. They go on to get rearrested for a non-drug related offense.
Wow.
So the idea that, these people are kind of in these lanes and that criminals specialize and that they don't really depart from their area of specialty is just not true. People will criminals who end up in prison will manifest their disregard for the law in multiple ways. And, just because someone is in today for dealing cocaine does not mean that they, would not hesitate to settle a dispute with a gun.
Yeah. We have that a lot here in Pittsburgh. It pops up all the time in news stories that it was, it was a drug deal or something happened. We had a terrible crime here a couple of years ago where it was a result of someone stealing some drugs from a drug dealer. I think that's what it was. It was a drug issue, and he went and just mowed down a bunch of people who were in a backyard cooking out on a summer night. And, I think he killed a pregnant woman, a couple other people, and it was because of a drug issue. And that's what caused it. So he could have been in prison for a drug deal, but he's also perfectly willing to shoot people.
Exactly. I mean, look, the escalation of the drug war, again, reasonable people can disagree about whether that was a good idea. But one thing that I think you have to acknowledge, if you're being honest about it, is that the escalation of the drug war was very much, if not more so, about responding to drug-related violent crime than anything else. People often like to facetiously point out that drug use rates haven't gotten better, and we're in the middle of an opioid epidemic, and fair enough. But what's important to recognize is that escalating the drug war was also very much about, it was a pretextual attack on violent crime insofar as law enforcement officers and people in the policy space understood to, a relative degree of certainty that there was a lot of overlap between drug criminals and violent criminals.
We're finishing up here with Rafael Mangual. He's a deputy director for legal policy at the Manhattan Institute. So, Rafael, it wasn't hard for you. Maybe it was. I shouldn't speak for you, but I'm guessing it wasn't all that hard for you to come up with these numbers that are in your piece. Is it laziness or just political expediency that causes people like Bernie Sanders to ignore the numbers that you came up with? Do you think is it possible that someone like him being a U.S. senator might actually be aware that he's telling a big lie when he does this, or is it stupidity? I know that's no way of knowing that. I guess I'm just asking for your opinion.
Yeah, look, I can't speak to what was in his head, but like you said, these numbers are widely and publicly available for anyone to see. And I tend to think that given the tone he's taken on this issue, he's playing politics more than anything else.
Yeah, and do you see a solution to this other than, maybe people should stop shooting each other so much?
Yeah, look, again, the idea that our prison population reflects anything other than a serious policy response to violent crime is really just disingenuous. Lowered crime significantly over time, but the uptick in the incarcerated population was a big part of that. And so, to the extent that it's become part of the Democratic Party platform to walk back these policies that we know were successful, I think we do that at our peril. And
just to sum up, it seems to me that the dumb thing here is that it's portrayed as a racial issue because more blacks are in prison. But side you want to be on? Do you want to be on the one that thinks that maybe the issue is that blacks should stop committing so many crimes, or that they should just empty the prisons to make it so it's the same percentage of black people in a prison as there are in the population? It's just dumb, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I ask people who racialize this particular issue is that yes, black Americans are overrepresented in prisons if you're using the percentage of the population as the baseline, which I don't think makes any sense. But when you look at who's committing the crime, you start to see that blacks are overrepresented among serious criminals, right? Black men make up about 7% of the population, but more than 40% of known murderers. But the more important thing is that their victims are overwhelmingly black, right? And so, when people, accuse the kind of tougher on crime folks of being racist, one of the things I like to point out is that, well, hey, the people who stand to benefit the most from, lowering crime through incarceration and through better policing is actually Black America, right? There was a fantastic book that's, that I recently read who's, I don't agree with the policy prescriptions in the book, but there's some really fantastic data in it. It's called Uneasy Peace, written by a guy named Patrick Sharkey. And one of the things that he pointed out was that the crime decline, the impact of the crime decline was basically for black Americans was basically the public health equivalent of eliminating obesity altogether in terms of lives saved.
Wow.
I mean, the idea that this is only a one-way ratchet and that there's not another side to this coin is just really frustrating for me because, at the end of the day, the people who stand to benefit the most are the people living in our most vulnerable communities, which is where a lot of this violent crime is concentrated.
Hey, Rafael, I'm out of time. I really appreciate you being here. Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Everybody in old cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock.
Have you heard the crack of the bat, the cheers of the crowd? Have you seen the smiles on the faces of the players as they take the field? I'm not talking about the Pirates. I'm talking about what's happening in Moon Township that can only be described as a miracle. This is John Steigerwald. With the help of Pirates Charities and people like yourself, the Miracle League of Moon Township has broken ground on a brand new ball field and adaptive playground where athletes with special needs can play regardless of their ability. At miraclesinmoon.org, you can see the stunning plans for the 9,500 square foot playground and state-of-the-art ADA-compliant restroom facility with showers, wave technology, multi-level fountains and sinks, mechanical changing tables, and more. It's incredible. Our goal? To raise the remaining funds they need to bring it home by first pitch this September. Check it out at miraclesinmoon.org/donate and make your tax-deductible gift today. That's miraclesinmoon.org/donate. This message paid for by Robinson Town Center, a Zamias Properties entity.
What we've taught at Fitness Innovations is that resistance exercise and proper nutrition is really the best way to lose body fat.
Fitness Innovations, personal training for body, mind, and spirit.
That exercise is better for fat loss than it really is. Nutrition is really the main thing, so we help people with some of the protocols we've developed to help them improve their nutrition. So we want to focus on not just weight loss, but we want people to have a better, healthier lifestyle, not just counting calories or things like that. For years, people thought cardiovascular exercise, aerobic exercise, was the best way to lose body fat. And really, weight training and resistance type exercise is superior in many ways for increasing metabolic function. We spend a lot of time really focusing on proper technique. And that's one of the benefits of one-on-one training, is that there's somebody there watching you and can correct that technique. Because part of staying fit is staying healthy and avoiding injury. If the technique's better, you get better results and it's safer.
Fitness Innovations in Mount Lebanon. Book your appointment today at fitnessinnovations.com.
Hey there, gun lovers. Here's an exciting opportunity to celebrate your Second Amendment freedoms at the #1 destination for American gun owners. It only happens once a year, so don't miss out. This is your chance to claim your discounted tickets to the Concealed Carry Expo coming to Pittsburgh the weekend of May 17th through the 19th. It'll be an action-packed 3-day event at the David Lawrence Convention Center you don't want to miss. Text EXPO to the number 87222 right now to lock in your discounted tickets and to learn more. It's that easy. And you'll get exclusive access to check out new guns and gear, a free live fire range, reality-based training simulator, training, and much, much more. Plus, if you register right now, you'll also get your free Responsibly Armed American t-shirt made by 9 Line Apparel. It's a high-quality shirt with a limited edition design. But that ends very soon. Don't get left behind. Hurry and text EXPO to the number 87222 to get your tickets now. That's the word EXPO to the number 87222.
Do you or your business have financial problems? Are you overwhelmed with debt? Then call me, Attorney Dennis Spire, at 412-471-7675. My legal practice concentrates on bankruptcy rights and tax matters. I have over 30 years' experience as a former United States Department attorney and lawyer in private practice. I have represented thousands of cases faced with financial problems and lawsuits. This experience has provided me with the unique knowledge to assess and draft a plan of recovery for your financial problems. I can stop home foreclosures, repossessions, creditor lawsuits, and tax collection. Reorganize and get a fresh start. I have numerous office locations in the Pittsburgh area. Call and schedule your free consultation today at 412-471-7675 or visit my website at dennisspira.com. Don't delay. Call 412-471-7675. That's 412-471-7675.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, let's finish with a little sports, sort of. The Red Sox play the Orioles tonight, and when that game is over, I think it's 13 players will be headed back to Boston on the team charter. The rest of the roster and some other people in the front office, including the owner, John Henry, will stay in Baltimore and then go to the White House tomorrow to be honored by Donald Trump for having won the World Series. Two things. First of all, it's probably time to just forget about inviting teams to the White House because it's all political now. But this guy writing, Gabe Laquez, I think his name is, USA Today, wrote a piece in which he said that the Red Sox should not have gone to the World Series, to the White House, because Donald Trump's a bad guy. Here's an idea. Okay, first of all, a lot of them ripped Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods knew Donald Trump before he was president and didn't think he was a racist. He hung out with him. He kind of liked him. But here's a suggestion for Donald Trump. Why, if this is going to happen every time a team wins, and invite the players who say they don't want to go and say, I want to sit down with you. Apart from the ceremony, I'm going to sit down and we're going to spend some time. You can tell me why you think I'm a racist and why you wouldn't accept a trip, an invitation to the White House. Try that. That would be something different. See how that works out, because it's all really stupid. I'll see you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250, The Answer, and Salem Media Group.
1 in 7 men is diagnosed with prostate cancer in his lifetime. The good news? When caught early, it can be treated. The bad?